Welcome to Pirate Living Podcast. We're your hosts, Karan and Kristen. On this podcast, we are highlighting ordinary people living extraordinary lives. These are pirates who take small, bold actions daily to create social change. Pirate life is all about rebelling and breaking the rules for good. Creating lasting social change starts by first breaking our inner rules. After all, the hardest rules to break are your own. The pirates we highlight have dedicated themselves to creating good trouble.
Today, we are talking with Jessica Meister. Jessica is a coach, sound healer, Reiki Master, yoga instructor, and host of the Magik and Daily Endurance podcast. Through her work, she helps men and women fully see themselves and step into their power. She helps people shift their mindset and create magic in their lives. And Jessica, thank you for chatting with us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be on a podcast.
Yeah.
Someone else's.
Other than yours. So yeah, you're now living a pirate life, but it hasn't always been that way for you. So before you took your life into your own hands and went on this journey, you were living in a working life in a corporate job. So we'd love for you to tell us about, what got you started on your pirate journey that led you to where you are today.
Oh, I love this. I love sharing this story too. So thank you for asking. So I was in a corporate job for 12 years. And if you know Calgary, Alberta, that's what you do and you're successful because you're in that corporate world. You're working the 9 to 5, you have benefits, you have stock options, you have weekends off, you have vacations during the year. And then after I think it was like 11 and a half years, I finally just realized how unhappy I was. It got to a point where I was actually crying every single day for 3 months straight. As soon as the train would hit that 3rd Street platform, downtown Calgary, I was in tears. Just thinking, I know that there's more to life than this. I know that I'm meant for something bigger than going into an office Monday to Friday and processing invoices. And it honestly ended up feeling like a prison. No offense to those of you that are doing it and you're in it. That's awesome if you love what you do. I just didn't love it. And my son was in grade 11 at the time. So his whole growing up, I wanted stability for him, wanted to be able to make sure he had structure. So this job was for me to provide that for him, and he was almost graduating. So it was like, okay, now what? Now what do I want for me? What do I want to create in my own life? And before I quit, I had started fitness training and big group fitness classes. I actually won a contest with Orange Theory Fitness. I won $1,500. And with that money, I said it out loud on the train one day. I was like, when I win that contest, I'm going for my FIS certificate. I won. So it was like, okay, universe, obviously this is where I'm supposed to go and this is what I'm supposed to do. And I loved it so much. And I knew the confidence that I was gaining in my own world, helping people on their own fitness journeys, getting fit, working out, having that fun experience. So that's what I had left to originally do. Which I didn't end up doing right away with personal training, because then I got my personal training certificate. I got certified with integration of nutrition. So I made kombucha for a little bit when I finally decided to put in my resignation and leave. Did that for about 9 months. And I was like, I didn't quit so that I could make kombucha. So I was like, okay, well, now what? So then I started chasing the fitness career again. And I finally got my dream job, fitness instructor, manager of a spin studio, one of the gyms here in Calgary. And then I was also personal training. And that was February of 2020. So we all know what happened in March of 2020. The whole world shut down. And I was just like, oh my goodness, now what? People aren't working out, people aren't doing their thing. 2019, I had gone through a really bad depression. I to the point that I didn't want to be here anymore. And I'm finally sharing this story because I know that I got through it. I pushed through it. I had like a bottle of sleeping pills, the blue ones that taste like metal in your mouth. And I knew that like if I took this and I drank a bottle of wine, I wouldn't wake up in the morning. But I have a son. So there's no way that that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to push through this. I'm going to get through it. Ended up like throwing those pills down the toilet because I reached out to a friend and let him know my situation. And then, got through the depression and found sound healing. And the first time I went to a sound bath, it was just like this massive shift in my life, just in my energetic body. And I knew that I had to keep going back because something changed. So that became my Friday nights versus like, going out to go drinking or whatever. It was a sound bath. And then I would go sit by a river and then I would go home, which is like totally different from my corporate realm of like Friday nights going out drinking and just being hungover on Saturdays. So 2019, I started with the meditations with sound healing. And during the pandemic, I had a CD that was a sound healing CD. I still have it. And I was just listening to it every day, knowing that within the vibrations of that music, something within me was shifting. So fast forward to April of 2021, and I'd hired someone to do a sound bath. And I looked at her and it was just like instantly like, I could never do that. And again, instant download of like, that's why you have to. And I was like, no, like I was supposed to be a personal trainer. Like I was supposed to be a fitness instructor. Like I can't go and do that. Like, what are you talking about? But ended up within a few days buying my first set of alchemy crystal singing bowls. And then it just expanded. I became a sound healer. I got my Reiki level 1, level 2. And then my whole life shifted because then in May of 2021, I ended up putting my house up for sale. And like literally selling everything, putting what I could in a storage locker, thinking like, oh, eventually I'll come back and I'll need all this stuff. And then lived in a van for 2 months after my house was sold. My son was 19 by this point. So he moved out on his own, had his own basement suite. And then I went and lived in a van for 2 months, which was like super, super cool. Highly recommend. If you have not lived van life, it's so fun. Especially if you can find like rivers to jump into, because showers sometimes are like few and far between. And then I ended up parking the van and moving to Costa Rica for 7 months, which was also like even more expanding in my healing journey. I think I had 5 bowls by this point, and I took them all with me. So I was doing sound healing down there. I found more healers to do my own work, to heal more of my own stuff. And all of these tools that I kept finding were just expanding me like more and more, opening up my heart, teaching me how to finally love myself and show up for myself even more, especially with my son being at the age of like, now what? All right, he's on his own. I've been a mom since I was 17. Now I have to take care of me now. Like, this is weird. And I'm still like processing that and going through that. And he's 21 now. So it's like a never ending journey. It's great. But lived in Costa Rica, did the healing, learned more tools, gravitated towards more sound modalities like tuning forks, gongs, love gongs. And then after 7 months, I decided to come back home because I missed my kid. And thought I was going to like get rid of the storage locker and I was going back. And then the universe was like, no, like you're going to stay here. You're going to help all the people that are coming into your life with the tools that you've learned. Then I found Enlifted, and like, that's been a whole huge game changer. within my realm because the tools that are in this program are just next level, right? And you both know that. And this stuff will change your life. So it's just continuing to learn the tools to help people love themselves and know themselves and keep chasing your dreams and the life that you want. So, yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Kron.
That's okay. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, one thing that I noticed from a lot of people that we've talked to that have worked corporate jobs too is like, that whole, I thought this was what I was supposed to do. I didn't realize that life could be another way. I thought that it was normal to be upset and to feel overwhelmed and to not be happy in life. And I can attest to like, yeah, I thought when I was working corporate jobs in the education field, like I thought this was the adulthood. This is what I'd been aiming for. Like I need a salary or I need that full-time job so that people think I'm a grown-up and that I'm succeeding in life. And yeah, it wasn't until I actually decided to leave those jobs for myself that I was like, oh, now I feel grown up. Before
Right.
I wasn't making any decisions for me. So yeah, it seems to be a common theme that I've noticed with people that have chosen the pirate way.
Yeah.
Yeah, so much of what you said resonated right down to like, I often joke with my clients when I talk about like not having vacation anymore, like as a self-employed person in the fitness industry. And I say, yeah, but I don't cry at work every day anymore. And so when you said that, I'm like, oh, dude, I've been there, like literally to the point of working at a Calgary-based company. So I really feel you. And I remember not only like crying almost every day at work, but on my drive to work, I had to drive. I chose to drive the back roads, which was along the river, just to give me a little bit of like peace in the morning. And I remember the amount of times that I thought, and this wasn't a very deep river, that I just thought, if I just drove into the river, they'd have to give me the day off. Right? Like I wouldn't get hurt because it's like a nice easy bank into it. I'm like, the amount of times that I contemplated just driving into the river so I didn't have to work that day, like that's when like shit's not right. Like crying every day, all of these things. And you're right, because you're in this place where you think that you're supposed to be, you're doing the job you're supposed to. I was making good money, good benefits, all of these things, but man, was I ever miserable doing the wrong thing for my life. And like you said, like it's not that it was a bad job. Like the money was good, the benefits were good, the job wasn't even that terrible. It was just so not in alignment with what I should be doing. Was there a pivotal moment for you that got you to like leave that? I mean, other than winning that contest, was there just something that happened where you're like, cool, I'm not doing this anymore? Like for me, it was during the pandemic, and I was actually at this point in my company in corporate health and safety. We were all working from home, and then I got tasked to, for my office, create the return to work plan. And I was like, I can't. I can't return to work. I don't want to do this. I can't go back. So that was the thing for me, is just realizing after that pause of, and I was the same thing. I had like no clients, the gyms were closed, but I took that leap. Was there one for you?
And it's funny that you say like being in the wrong environment, because I actually was getting colds every single month too, for like 6 months straight. As soon as I got better, I'd get another cold. And it was like, what is going on? And Louise Hay, like if you read her stuff, it's like, you're in the wrong environment. So for me, the pivotal moment was one of the engineers that I would talk to. So I was like the social butterfly, right? Like, you're going to put me in an office, like, okay, well, I'm going to like go and say hi to everybody and good morning. And like, that was me. And one of the engineers came into my office and he asked me if I was okay. And I looked at him and I started crying and I was just like, I'm not. And this was one of the engineers, like he always stayed in his office, total introvert, like typical engineer, right? And when he came into my office, I was like, if you're coming to me, then I know like I'm not okay. And even I think the last day that I was there, I went into his office and I said, thank you, because that was like a huge sign being like, you need to get out of here and change your whole life because this is no longer serving you. So very grateful for him.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always interesting when someone that's like on the peripheral of your life almost can notice that shit's not okay. And oftentimes I feel like it's not the people that we're closest to that notice. It's like, yeah, people that are almost at arm's length that can kind of see the difference when shit's not okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was also a very toxic environment, just like in general. Like when the insights people are coming in to like help like create a better unity within your team, like something's wrong, right?
It's funny, we were doing the same thing. I'm like, what company did you work for? I'm like, were we in the same company?
Possibly. We'll talk about it after.
We'll talk about it after.
I don't see their name.
Literally working at the same place. This is sounding way too familiar. So I'm curious because I don't know a lot about sound healing. So like, what is it and how does it work?
This is one of my favorite questions. So the bowls that I work with are called alchemy crystal singing bowls, and they're made out of pure quartz crystal, and they're 99.9% pure. So because of that, the material that they are made out of actually goes through like your entire energy body within the sound session. So if you're a meditator, like this is just something that helps amplify and raise your vibration, especially when the person that is facilitating is in a higher vibration themselves. And that's why I keep going to sound baths and meditating and making sure that I do the work too. So you go in, and the way that I host mine, I lead people in to the session, and then the bowls do what the bowls do. They've also been known to help people with anxiety, stress, sleep. There's been some people out in Cochrane that have actually had like miraculous healing. How do I explain that one? Like they've healed things that they have been taking prescriptions for like 20 years after one sound session. I'm not saying that happens to everybody, but there are cases out there. And the people that are having these healings, like they don't know what's going on and where that comes from, right? Because it's like, it's woo woo, right? Like it's like I went to a sound bath and now like that leg injury that I had that's been bothering me for 20 years isn't in pain every single day when I wake up anymore. So within that, it's a healing modality. It helps raise your vibration. And for me, they changed my life like 100%. If you would have told me when I left my corporate realm that this is what I would be doing, I'd be like, no, you're crazy. Like there's no way. I don't even know what a sound bath is. So it's like miraculous basically, and such a beautiful way to meditate if you are someone that is into meditation. Mm-hmm.
And we'll take a step down from the woo for a second, just to the scientific part. Would you say that because of the sounds as well, that it's calming the nervous system with the sound? So it's in that sense too, able to amplify, like I'm calming myself with meditation, and then the sound is even able to bring it even further.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you've seen, well, if you have seen those videos where there's like salt and they put them on top of the speaker,
Mm-hmm.
and then the shapes and sounds of like all of the things moving and creating these beautiful designs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's happening within your body, within your cellular system, which is like, wow, so cool.
That is. Yeah, those are cool videos. So I'll remind myself to look some up and attach them to this. If not, listeners, go look them up.
So how are you using this in the work that you do with your clients? Like, what does your practice look like?
So right now, people come for one-on-one sessions, and then I also have group sessions. I go to people's houses as well. So within the Calgary and area, like I go all the way to Cochrane. And I'm looking to do something in Banff or Canmore this summer because that would just be super cool. So the one-on-one sessions, I also with the Reiki, I infuse that into the session as well. So placing crystals within each of the chakras and helping align and move anything that might be stuck within the energy body. And the bowls also help to take that out, and like you don't leave the same as when you come in. It's like if you go to a breathwork session, if you go to a yoga session, if you go and work out, like you don't leave the same as when you went in. So within the bigger groups, it's actually way different within the bigger groups because I can notice if there's like a couple of people in the room who aren't like fully in it, because then it feels like it takes a little bit longer for me. And then when people are like all in, it feels like 5 minutes, which I like look at my clock and I'm like, how did that happen? So finding out the energy of people is just so fascinating to me, and knowing that like this stuff is real. So the bigger sessions I'm doing in a yurt starting on Sunday. I've done a few since I've been back and when I was in Costa Rica. And Sunday's going to be like full time every Sunday. And then, if I get hired out, then that one's really cool too. So I love it. I honestly, it's so cool to me.
You just reminded me with like when people are in it versus not to, that I had a energy massage not so long ago. And I remember being in my head of like, oh man, I'm messing this up. Like she's trying to, I told her I'd fully surrender and I'm not like I got in my head and I'm like, oh, she's going to stop this and kick me out and be like, you're not into this. So yeah, it's, it can make a difference too. Like when you fully surrender, versus being in your head and being like, is this actually going to work? Or like, oh, I'm not doing this right. Am I doing this right? So, and I can see how for you too, you like, you can get into it a lot easier if everybody is feeling it.
How do you deal with people that are like maybe skeptics or like, how do you deal with them?
I think that everyone is entitled to their own opinion because there are people who have come and then they never come back, right? And the same thing happened in my fitness classes. So it's like, if it doesn't resonate with you, it doesn't. And that's perfectly okay. The skeptical people, come try it out. Let me know what you think afterwards. And if you just had a relaxing experience, then cool. But yeah, it's not everybody believes in the woo. So that's okay.
So what would you say is your social rebellion that you are doing with the work that you're doing now?
Oh, I like that. Helping people heal like their traumas and going against like the society standard would be what I would say. Like being the pirate, I'm like, yeah, my whole life right now goes against everything like I thought that I was supposed to be. Like talking the corporate career of like, I owned the house, I had the job, I had the great vehicle, my son was doing like so well in school. Like that was success to everyone on the outside, right? Miserable, absolutely miserable. And now like I own my car and my RV still. And like, I'm doing something that isn't a normal career job within the healing realm, and helping people get past their traumas and bring up those emotions that they probably, take out the probably, that they didn't want to look at before, that was like right there in their face and they don't want to heal it. And the bowls help you to even like, if you're not fully paying attention to that, it'll help you shift things. And like after a session, people can think about a situation, a scenario that they're like, where did that come from? And it's the bowls. It's shifting it out and helping them pay attention to it, love it, let it go, right? Like I'm all about the woo, which is not like standard society. Like, nope, I own nothing now and I've never been happier. Like,
yeah. And with the woo too, and it's so funny, like we call it woo, but I want to say, would you agree? Like when you get into the woo, it's embracing your intuition and listening to yourself versus being like, oh, this is what I've been told to do. And it's so funny that we like generally it's called woo, but to me, it's felt the more and more I learn, and allow myself to try out different things, I've learned that I've gotten to it. I've listened to myself more, and it feels a bit more like it's the ability to listen to my intuition. But is what we typically would call woo.
right.
So,
I like to call it magic, but
yeah.
woo seems to be like when you meet people who don't understand it, you're like woo woo, and they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I wonder where did that even come from? Like, what does woo even mean? Like, the more we say it, I'm like, that's stupid. Woo, woo,
Right?
woo. I'm like,
Like to me, it's magic. That's why my podcast is the Magic in Daily Endurance, because it's like when you find the magic and you create your reality. So to answer your question, I'm going to go like all the way back to when I was a kid. I used to go up to my mom's friends who were pregnant, and I would put my head on their stomach and I would guess what the baby was. Every single time I was right. And then when I was like 14, I got introduced more to like healing hands is something that is along with the Reiki and what I do. And I was shown like what I was able to do. So I put my hands over a person's body and I could feel like where their injuries were. And then I got scared because I was like 14. So I was like, what is this? I don't know, like what is going on? So I actually hid it. And I like put it in the back corner. My intuition was telling me things and I was like, nope, I don't know what that is, but I'm not going to listen to it. But then when 2020 hit, I went on like this big spiral of like all the rabbit holes and like what's going on in the world. And then it was like, okay, clearly I'm here to help people with like their traumas and things that need to be healed, because I am doing that myself within my own history, within what's happened in my own family. So I just went down like the spiritual path of like magic is real. Your thoughts creating your reality, your words speaking them out is what creates the world around you, which is the magic. So beautiful.
Yeah. The magic of words. I'll just use like a recent example as in this morning. Because we were talking beforehand, I strained a muscle. I'm not even going to say pulled. I strained a muscle. And then the process of trying to strengthen, stretch, and work on it yesterday, it got worse instead of better. Although I will tell myself that that's because I'm going to heal faster from it. But anyway, this morning I was crawling to get from one place to the other. And I was like, I have to get up. And I started going through my head, like, you can get into a squat from here. Cause at first I was like, I can't get up. I don't know how to get up. And I'm like, okay, no, you can go into a squat. You know how to do this. You've been here before. And so from there, I was able to get up, but it was like, there's a difference in like two different worlds I could be in right now of like, I can't get up. I'm stuck. Like, what do I do? I'm home alone. Or versus like, oh, I can take care of myself. I can do this. And it's all a matter of the words that you're choosing. And it's so yeah, it's like, it is magic because you get to choose.
Yeah.
And that brings up a good question here. How do you integrate what we learned with and lifted with the story work and language with the work that you do?
Oh, yeah. It's been really cool to incorporate it with what I do. I actually have packages for people who are in Calgary to do a story work session and then a sound bath session. I know that Mark's talked about people who do massages, like doing a story work and then going in for the massage and like, oh, that muscle that's been tensed up and stuck forever is now all of a sudden loose because you went into, have you guys read the Body Keep Score? Yeah. So like knowing that our body is literally like the vault for everything that has happened to us. So within the story work and the sound healing, like it's next level on what can happen in somebody's life and shift. So it's been a really great addition.
Now that you say that, my husband likes to do, so he's a chiropractor. So he likes to, when friends are over that actually know the story work, be like, find a spot and be like, can you tell me about like what's going on right here? Like, what are you thinking? What are you feeling? So yeah, it's a fun thing to learn how your body holds things and learn how to release them.
Yeah, I found out about that book in my level 1 and I like got it right away. And I was like, this makes so much sense to me. Like, and my sisters are both overweight. I don't know if they're going to listen to this, but, so but it is like not dealing with the trauma, right? Like just pushing it under the rug. And that's why I've been so into this work and so motivated to heal all of those things, because I know that the deeper I go within my own healing journey, the less like shit I feel. And that is a win. Like, is it hard? Absolutely. Am I crying more than I've ever cried in my life? Absolutely. But do I feel better? Oh my goodness. Yes. Which is so, so cool.
We talk a lot about good trouble on our podcast. What does good trouble mean to you, and how are you creating good trouble in the world?
Ooh, does hanging out with people during the pandemic count? Like, you know what? I talked about this on my Instagram yesterday too. And it was just like, oh, whatever, throw me in jail. I don't care anymore. Words are magic. That's not going to happen. So good trouble, like actually getting together with people and creating those containers during the pandemic was huge, because knowing that these are the tools that help you change your life. Like, I don't know how many sound baths I went to when the world was shut down. And yeah, creating good trouble, helping people get in rivers is definitely one of my favorites. It's not everybody's forte, and being there as a guide to help people get into rivers it feels like good trouble, because everyone's like, oh my God, I could never do that. And it's like, but if you had a guide and like, I could hold your hand, like whatever, I know a really good spot. And yeah, just creating safe containers for people. Like rage containers are a thing here in Calgary, and it's like screaming out that's those things that just piss you off, and like you're just hitting a pillow and like screaming your face off. Creating good trouble.
I used to do a lot of car screaming. Screaming is great. I used to scream until I was like hoarse. And now that you say that, I don't need to do that rage screaming now that I don't work my corporate job anymore. I'm like, I stopped doing that. I stopped needing to do that. So it's funny. Yeah. Rage, like releasing that anger. Well, I would say like releasing the anger before it becomes rage. Is like so important, right? Because like we, especially as women, we're told to like hide and suppress, especially anger. We're not allowed, quote unquote, to show our anger. And that's when things become super toxic. And I just love doing some car screaming until like let it all out. Or whatever other way you want to like release that anger before it does turn into that rage. Because I think that's when it like becomes a little bit more toxic and suppressed anger. It's not
right.
good.
Like be quiet, sit down, don't be seen. Right. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, I'm going to scream. I'm also a huge fan of dancing in public, like at Home Depot in the middle of the street. Like I have a speaker attached to my purse and I will throw on a dance party wherever. So.
Those are the best people to see when driving. Like, oh, hey, that person's enjoying life.
That's funny. Someone asked the other day, what's the worst piece of advice you were ever given? I think that's a great question. And I thought about it for a little bit. And my initial answer that I came up with was be a good girl. And I'm like, fuck that. Like, no, we got to stop teaching our girls to be good girls. And because we do want to be out there causing rebellions and creating good trouble. So what's one of the worst pieces of advice that you've been given?
Ooh.
Actually, for both of you.
Oh,
yeah. I'm like, I feel like I need to think about this.
Yeah, it's a thinker.
All right. Well, you think, Jess. I just thought of I was told to be the good kid, the happy kid. Don't be like your brothers and sister. Which was basically like, don't fight with me. Don't like go show all your emotions and your true colors when it ultimately came down to it. Be the happy kid. And it wasn't until like 4 years ago that I realized how much that screwed me up. I mean, Mom, you're probably not listening to this, but if you are, I'm good.
Thanks, Mom.
But it was a big part of my people pleasing that I had to unravel later on, because I'm like, oh, no one wants, because my face, my lips naturally will droop down if I'm just relaxed. I got in trouble with my mom multiple times just for having a relaxed face, because she thought I was mad at her, because that was her opinion of what was going on. I'm like, Mom, I'm sitting here reading a book. So I learned to keep a smile on my face no matter what I was feeling, because I was getting in trouble otherwise. So yeah, be the happy kid was, I would say, the worst advice I was ever given.
I'd say I got in trouble on my report card and when I was in my corporate job about being the social butterfly. And at the same time, I am a really big networker and connector. That's one of my gifts. So like getting in trouble for that is, I'd say that's like, she needs to sit down and she's not paying attention. And because I'm not supposed to be stuck at this desk all day in both realms.
Things we get to unravel.
So where can our listeners go to find out more about you and what you're up to?
Awesome. My website is mindfulbodyexperience.com. And then I can be found on Instagram at Jess_mindfulbodyexperience. And I always reach out in DMs, and there's ways to purchase sound baths as well that I have online. There's a free one just for signing up for the email. And I love connecting with people and sharing more of what sound baths and Reiki and all the magic that happens in my realm. So,
And how would you recommend our listeners start their own pirate life? What's a small step they can take?
Meditating was honestly what changed my life. I started meditating in 2017, and I did not realize that this is where it would lead me to. Like, what's that? Almost 6 years later. Yeah. Just sitting with yourself and sitting with your thoughts is incredibly powerful. You find out who you really want to be in the world.
Awesome. Before we wrap up, is there anything you want to add or anything you want to ask us?
That is
trick question.
Trick question.
We're not done yet.
Well, when I'm done my podcast, I usually ask people a question. And the question is, if you could go back and talk to, let's say, 7-year-old self, what advice would you give her?
Don't be a good girl. No. Good question.
I'm thinking about my 7-year-old self would have been in first grade. I was seeing a child psychologist at that time because I wasn't talking at school. I was getting bribed to talk. So for me, I think I'd tell that 7-year-old self, like, only talk when you feel safe to talk. when you want to talk, but not because you have to or because somebody else is telling you to. Like, you get to choose when you want to use your voice and when not to. So that power is yours and not all the adults that are telling you that you're wrong for not talking.
Love that.
Yeah, I would tell 7-year-old me, I don't know if 7-year-old me would have understood necessarily, but I would have told her that she is not responsible for other people's feelings and actions. And it goes into that people pleasing and just my parents aren't listening to this either, but feeling responsible anytime, especially my dad was like in a mood or anything like that, that it was always that was something that I did and something that I could do to fix it. And I think I wasted so much energy as a child and even as a young adult, thinking that it was my fault when he was like in a mood. So I would try to explain to 7-year-old me, and then maybe eventually she would understand that this is not your responsibility. The emotions and actions of adults especially are not your responsibility. Yeah. She might not have gotten it, but I would tell her for sure. That was a great question.
It was. What's your answer to the question?
Yeah.
Oh, I've been asked this question. For 7-year-old self, I would tell her that it's all going to turn out better than you ever expected. You're going to go through a lot, but it's going to turn out better than you expected. Yeah.
Awesome.
Like it.
Yeah. Well, it's been so good talking with you today and having you on and hearing your story, which we're going to get more into some details when we hang up here, because I feel like we are just working at the same company. At least maybe some competitors or something. But yeah, it's been really great having you on and chatting with you today.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.